Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to United 96 here on the Art Here Refugees Podcast Network. Ted here, John here to break down a very positive show coming up for you.
Yeah,
Extremely positive.
not a lot of negative you're going to be hearing on the show today. So if that's your vibe, you might want to skip this one. This is going to
It's
be a cheery show.
it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling for sure. John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend?
I can't beat it. It was my daughter's third birthday, so we had a bounce house. We had Paw Patrol balloons. It was a winner of a weekend. She had a great time. Thus, I had a great time, and then I got to watch the most fun DC United game that I have experienced in recent memory, and not even that recent memory, in just near term memory. How about you? What'd you do?
Yeah, man, same thing. I had I had to remain next to my computer as I was on call for work. So it was basically a hang around the house day. Didn't really do much. Did go out to with a friend to watch the game, keeping my laptop close by in case something happened. But it was still still pretty much a late weekend. Not a whole lot, not a whole lot going on. Yeah, let's do we just get right into it? Let's talk. What do we,
Let's get right into it.
do we
Well,
want to start?
hold on. I've got to. I have. I see you were smart that there was something potentially. What did I say last time? I want to make sure that I call out new Patreons every time we
Yes.
get one. And guess what? There's another new one. Jason Hovey, I think is your name. And this is also a reminder to myself to mail you your stickers because I forgot to do that. So that's something else you get, folks. If you become a Patreon, you get the first thing you get is the Friday show,
Hmm.
which people, it's ever all anyone's talking about is the second Friday show. It's just all the time. Just can't help. But you also get stickers. You get a bunch of stickers that I send to your house, and then you have my return mailing address. So
put a, put
do
a, put them up in Audi Field. Help drive people to our show. Put them
yes. The way
everywhere.
it works best is put it near urinals, apparently. So that's the trick. I was at the suite at the Richmond game, and I was looking in the nice bathrooms to see if there's any stickers in there. No, we're not. We're in the working class bathrooms, which are in the cheaper seats. We're in the behind the supporters group bathrooms. That's where we reside.
Well, they probably also take them off as soon as they come in and clean up, someone
I
rips off.
maybe not. But anyway, if you want both stickers and an extra Friday show, patreon.com/RFK Refugees.
Yes.
Now, let's get into the good stuff.
Let's get into the good stuff. Let's start with the Richmond game. Maybe do a light touch on that game. Obviously, I am now welcome back onto the show. John is
Yeah, that's
now.
right. There was a cooling period that we both went through. Now it's fine.
There was a cooling period. No, there was no video streaming of the game, and again, I've talked about how much that stinks. Um, Sway 22 says the show of the people. So thank you for that.
It's us.
We're the show of the people. But the Richmond Kickers DC United Open Cup game. An interesting experience coming from somebody who was sitting on the opposite side and actively rooting against the team playing DC United. But we will keep our analysis short to DC. Very fortunate, I think, to get to the next round of the Open Cup, John. I think you would at least agree with that. They came out with what we expected. I think was a very much a
The
uh,
children.
the
The
children,
children.
and they
Mostly
looked.
that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I think that I'll big up them since everyone would expect you to do it. Richmond Kickers looked very good in the first half, and they were tactically much more disciplined than a DC United side that clearly had never, other than the 2 days before this game in training, worked with that exact 11 before. It was very disjointed. The Kickers did a very, very good job of sort of not pressing in the midfield and making the DC United backline and the eights try to think about what they wanted to do with the ball. And when they thought about it, they would make bad decisions and pass the ball right into the Kickers' defense over and over and over and over and over again. And the only team that was really dangerous on a consistent basis down the wings, and it wasn't that much. I mean, I didn't think they did XG for the U.S. Open Cup. It wouldn't have been very high for either one of them, honestly. But I think the Kickers could feel very good about the way that they presented themselves as a League One team, and DC United. I mean, DC and I don't care about style points. When you throw out a lineup like that, you just care about scraping by, and that's exactly what they did. So I think both teams can feel good about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think from, I mean, from the Richmond perspective, I will say, I think Terazaghi had the best chance at the game. We were talking about in the stands. He is. If you don't know, if you don't follow, not a League One aficionado, he is by far and away
Let's assume
the,
you're not.
by far and away the best player in League One. He's won the MVP 3 years in a row, been the Golden Boot winner, so but hasn't scored. And he had a PK and an opportunity, and missed them both. Both were saved by Alex Bono, who was probably maybe the star of the match
For sure was.
as far as saving the PK and saving the goal. Yeah, I mean they get a pretty fortunate penalty. Yamil Assad's the one who buries it. That probably will be his only goal that he will score in a DC United uniform. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's my very specific prediction for the rest of the year.
I
Uh,
think not. I think he's actually building up a little bit ahead of steam here.
yeah,
I
you think
think.
so?
I do. I mean,
Okay.
I granted. I mean, there he was crashing the box. Like he was more active in this game than he has been for sure in this stint. I don't know. We'll see. There are some Yamil heads that actually are big fans of his. I'm not putting myself in that camp, but he certainly has looked a lot better than he did when he started.
Yeah,
Continue.
yeah. I mean, and I think from another DC perspective, I think we saw the kids a lot. They struggled because
Yep.
now you're not just a bit player. You don't have Benteke taking a lot of attention from you that you can slip behind. So it's a lot harder to play. Both Fletcher looked rough.
Very.
I thought Akambone maybe looked the solid of the kids that I guess we talked about. I thought he was the most solid in that defensive.
He looked very confident. He looked very confident with the ball at his feet. It made me nervous, but he was confident. So I
Mhm.
think that's the important thing. But
Yeah.
Alex Bono is your cup goalkeeper, and also showed that like it is certainly not going to be a problem if Tyler Miller needs to take a game off. Like he had, I would say, probably three moments that were huge in a game that didn't have a lot of moments. So
Yeah. But I think we'll close the book very briefly on that. It was a lot of kids. They brought on Click. They had Benteke as an emergency release valve. I think if Terazaki bangs in that PK, I think you see Benteke get shouldered onto the field very very quickly. And I'm not sure how it would have looked. And honestly, right now, I'm disappointed as a Richmond fan that they couldn't pull that out. But it appears to have maybe given them a little bit of confidence because they just went into on the road against the champions of last year, the League One champions of last year in South Georgia Tementa, and spanked them 3-1. Scored 3 goals in the first half, and including Terazaghi, who finally gets off the score sheet off a free kick. So everybody's happy, everybody's good.
I spoke to Mateus Click last week, and Patreons will get that probably in a day, and then the rest of you might get it later. You will get it later. But we sort of joked about the fact that Lewis O'Brien, if he had a pulse, was going to play in this game because they're going to play him anytime. And I laughed because he played too, and I don't think he was supposed to play. He wasn't even supposed to be in the 18, and then he had to be in the 18, and then he's like, "Well, if I'm going to be here, then I'm going to play." So I'm not gonna go through warmups and not play. That's dumb. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll be curious to hear that once it comes out. So, all right, let's jump into the main attraction. Let's jump into DC versus. Oh, by the way, we should mention DC United will go on the road to play against the New York Red Bulls. That'll
Out of
be
college.
yes at a college at Montclair State University. Let's talk a little bit. I do think I want to preface because I think the team got a lot of heat with regards to the fact that they did not bid for a home opener. And there was a lot of, I was one of them. I was upset. I was like, why can't you just bid for Tuesday? If the Spirit are playing on Wednesday, why not just bid for Tuesday? Well, US Soccer requires it because I think they want to schedule out the games that both dates be available. And also, so that's out of the question. DC, there's no way DC could like conceivably fit a doubleheader. Not going to
Nope.
happen. They
Won't work because
cannot.
of also work doesn't work because the locker rooms are a problem.
Yep, yep. And they're also contracted. They're also contracted to play all games, Open Cup, everything has to be. I think Sans preseason games, they have to play them at Audi Field. They are contractually obligated by the city, so they could not do something like go to the Soccerplex, go to Segra Field. Even though I think they would take Soccerplex over Segra Field, to be honest. So they can't do that. So they were, and I think one other last sort of argument, and this is where I get into when you start digging this deep, then it's a little bit like, okay, it's you're just looking for in my mind, a reason to be mad. But I believe it was brought up. Well, they should have known this schedule and they should have blocked out these dates. And I'm like, do you guys know in the history of how U.S. soccer runs the Open Cup? I don't know when exactly those dates came out. I can't imagine it was a year in advance or even 6 months in advance. I guarantee it was like 3 or 4 months. Maybe they had a general idea of when the Open Cup fixtures were going to be. They're not going to be unfair to the Spirit. They're not going to make the Spirit move their match. The Spirit also probably will have a higher attended match than that DC Open Cup game. Let's be serious. That would be really awful to the Spirit. Unfortunate timing of the game, unfortunate situation. Even if they bid to host, there's a good chance maybe they would have also, there's like a 50-50 shot they would have been on the road anyway. So honestly, let's go up there. Both teams are going to hate their lives. They have to travel to this state college. I think it also speaks maybe, the Red Bulls really took this tournament seriously. The fact that they are not playing this at Red Bull Arena and they're making everybody go up to this state college, I don't know. That seems to me that might be sending some signals that maybe they're not so high on this tournament now. Their regular season is very much falling apart. They are at the bottom of the table. They are trying to figure out a way to rescue that. I don't know. Just something interesting. We'll see. We'll see what the lineups look like for that game next week.
I don't
2
want
weeks
them
from
to
now.
do well, but I would have encouraged them to try to win this. If your season's that way, I think it's a good way to turn your season around. Is would not be to go play at a college and get spanked. That would be
Yeah.
not recommended. But I hope they do. Loudon is also hosting Columbus Crew the next day.
Yeah.
And in my fever dream, I had a plan. I was like, I want to do both games. I want to take a bus to New Jersey on Tuesday and then come back and then work a day and then go to the Wednesday night game. And then I thought about it and I said, I am too old for that. Yes. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go to the Loudon game because I said I would. And I think it'll be funny to see the Columbus Crew play at Segra Field. That's
Yeah.
mostly why I'm going. I think that's funny and I want to see it.
If Loudon wasn't on basically the other side of the universe for me, I would consider it as well. But sadly, it is.
I'll do more Instagram. I'll do more Instagram live for the peoples.
And all games, and we don't have to worry about streaming because all games will be streamed in this round of the Open Cup. So none of the more 8 games, and then you're kind of on your own from there. I hope
That's too bad because we were getting some Instagram engagement. Well, I guess being the only game in town is certainly helpful, and that was I think we got more follows that day than we've gotten ever. So
still go do the Instagram. I'm sure some people will watch, but yeah. So fun times. Open Cup's always a great appearance. I'm still trying to figure out if the kickers got like the whatever the prize for like the top division team. Haven't figured that out yet. When I do, I'll let you know. You guys don't care. All right, let's go.
we got to make sure in the show notes to say if you want to hear about the good thing that you're listening to this show for, go to the 13th minute of the show. That's where we finally start talking about the win. It's 13 minutes. Hello, everybody.
We talked about DC Richmond. Come on, people can win.
That's
People
true.
will be fine. People will be fine. All right, let's talk DC United, Charlotte FC. DC picks up their third regular season win in a row, 4th game in all competitions. They appear to be finally putting it together. Positive vibes. Everybody's happy. John, give me just your overall thoughts on this game. Are you as happy as everybody else seems? Are you maybe a little wary?
No, I'm happy. There's been so little to be sort of unalloyed happy about this team in so long. If you do not choose to be happy right now, you will never be happy. This is the golden platter opportunity to be happy. Now, they have a game coming up on the road against FC Cincinnati. It's going to be tough. They played the top of the division this weekend and drew them 1-1. They probably should have won. If they win this weekend, I will be insufferable. I'm going to be on Twitter talking mad smack to everybody because then I really, really will believe. If they draw, I even think we're still in a really great spot. If they lose embarrassingly like 5-1, then I'll be like, oh, okay, it was a mirage. So those are the outcomes. 2 of those 3 are good. So we'll see. The lineup, I think that they've settled on a lineup, or until Steve Birnbaum hurt his hip, they may have to alter that set lineup. But
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Hopefully he's good. I hope that's the case. They said they took him out as precautionary sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Williams just drops right into that next center back role. It seems like it's working. So I keep it. I think that's an easy decision to make.
But overall, when your stars are playing like stars, and you're not having to rely on players who are trying to have to exceed what they're actually capable of doing on a consistent basis, that's when you're going to start winning games. When you can start sort of recycling lineups and just going out there and doing the thing again. So yeah, well, let's get into the specifics. But it was a strong lineup out there. This team wanted to win this game. Carl Robinson in the midweek was talking about how they wanted to get out and be exciting for the fans and really get them behind them. And if you were in the stadium for a certain one of the goals, that certainly happened.
Both there are two goals I would say that were certainly special moments on the field. But let's talk about and I think I do want to add. I came in. I forget what episode I dropped this. I think it was before the New England game, and I looked and I haven't done the math to see whether they actually met this goal. But I said we have 6 games. We need to get like 12 points. I don't. I think maybe they've gotten 11 of those 12, but they have three wins in a row, and then like I think 2 draws in the middle of that. So not quite what I wanted, but I think certainly
The season's lost.
it's
They didn't get 12.
but it was more that this team needed to pick it up and start to do it, and they've certainly done it over these past few games. Like you said, tough stretch coming up. I do want to add it. It's a tough stretch of 3 games. It's away to Cincinnati, home to Nashville, and then away to Philly. So I think we're going to learn a lot. I think we're going to learn whether this team is going to be fighting for 7th, 8th, ninth. If they come out stronger, maybe we're looking at 5th, 4th, and 3rd, maybe 6th, maybe sitting in there talking about, having the home field advantage, getting multiple playoff games. I think it's certainly nothing. It's certainly going to be, I think, a stretch where we're going to learn a lot about this team. But let's get into the game. DC Charlotte. First, I will say, as positive as things were going to be about this team, the first about 30 minutes were not very good. The team looked a little bit disjointed. They were kind of sitting back a lot, not really able to really engage them. They would get maybe a chance to sort of break the pressure and try to go upfield, and they would get dispossessed and immediately be back under pressure. But what I will say, and I know, I think Wayne Rooney expressed his displeasure about the first 30 minutes, but they never really. I mean, I think maybe sans one opportunity never really gave Charlotte too many good looks. It was they basically were able to kind of weather that storm and also kind of maybe also sort themselves out where they can sort of be solid defensively. So I think it shows that the shift in the team to kind of a defense first, we're going to lock it down from a formational perspective. We're going to keep teams from scoring. I think has kind of has helped this team able to kind of like maybe sort it out in games where they're not flying off the rails or they're not able to generate chances. Did you see it the same way, or maybe were you kind of maybe a little more wary, I guess, in those first 30 minutes?
No, I was upset on the internet. I was tweeting. I think I tweeted something and Dave said it on the on the broadcast. I was like, on the back foot here a little bit here in the first 30 minutes. I don't know what it's going to take to get them to sort of put their stamp on the ball. And the answer, what it took was a goal.
Yeah.
And then it was like the field was definitely tilted one whole way for pretty much the remainder of the game.
And I think it gets into kind of what I was talking about. Then you're able, then they I think about minute 30, 35, they started to break pressure. They started to find the counterattack. There was sort of if you go to, I think it's I want to call it Black and Red United, but it's not Black and Red United. But
The District Press.
Yeah, the District Press, the guy who does the tactical analysis, and I'll try to pull up his name here in a little bit to actually give him credit. But in the District Press, they kind of talked about how the team sort of dropped back and they were able to sort of find those wing positions. And I think the first penalty kick the opportunity that turned into the penalty kick came from I think it came from Nahar, able to find space, dribble in. Does some nice work with Taxi Funtas. Taxi Funtas gets hit, goes down. The referee does not call it, but I think everybody was kind of complaining about the referee. I thought he was fine. He's probably, I didn't recognize him. He's probably one of the newer referees. And I think we need, if we're going to get some new blood in here, that's not the Ted Uncles of the world. We maybe need to allow a little bit of nervousness early on in the season, but. And I think what we're seeing from what we're seeing from a lot of referees now, particularly on those penalty calls. Because let's be clear, Taxi made a meal of that. Like he could have played through that contact, but he felt the contact and went down. And basically, now we have VAR, and I think the referee was like, "Well, I'm not sure if he dove or if there's something else there. I'm going to let it go," and then immediately stops play, goes to VAR. They basically confirm the contact. Once the referee stopped play in the middle of basically when everybody was playing and not waiting for the ball to go out of play, I knew immediately, it was like, this is going to be a PK. Like at that point, it's almost always a penalty kick.
It's happened to us, right? Like I think that the VAR slight touch thing certainly vindicates Taxi's Taxi's decision to be very light on his heels with that. I think basically if you can get it to VAR, there's likely going to be some sort of contact where they're going to be like, all right, well, yeah, that did happen. I looked at it. Now I have to say it happened. So, but either way, Taxi takes his chance. He was 0 for 1 on penalty kicks before that. So I was nervous a little bit as he came to the spot, but he he's a player right now that has just come off of a goal on the road in Orlando, feeling very confident, and the goalkeeper got a hand on it. He guessed right and dove right, but luckily it scooted through. And then the tactical takeover that Ted referred to just happened pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah, it was sort of them, sort of embracing sort of going at them a little bit, embracing that press, and I think the goal gave them maybe a little bit of confidence to go out and do that. So there certainly were some changes. I mean, I think one player who's starting to finally get, I think, the attention we think he deserves is Russell Canals, who is basically finally playing his natural position. He finally has a two-person combination in O'Brien and Click that he can kind of almost create a sort of triangle with in sort of that center midfield where he can get it to them and they can kind of shuttle it forward. So I mean, I think in that sense, that sort of three midfield pairing I think has really been in figuring that part out of the field, because I think we had some of the width play from Santos. We knew we had some of the width play from Nahar, and we knew certainly we had Taxi Funtas. Christian Benteke is going to hold up play. Defensively, they needed to also figure it out, but I think also that center of midfield was sort of how are we going to get this connection actually where we're going to be able to sort of generate chances. And they had several chances. I think there was one chance that I think Taxi sent off left that was just a wonderful press, win the ball, and then a quick counter that just very nearly turned into I think the second goal right before Benteke hit his worldie, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I want to just also make sure that I think that this is important for us to both do. For as much as we have stood on our soapbox and talked about how Donovan Pines is not a starter in this league because he's not consistent and he has mental mistakes and he makes mistakes and then they result in goals. This is now for sure his longest run of consistently good form. He's playing confidently. He's playing well in the 3-back system. He is not making the mistakes that he is prone to make. He's not taking chances that he doesn't have to take. I think that's the way. That's where he wants to be. That's where he should be. Just calm, collected. Use your natural strengths. Don't try to do things that you're not good at and get yourself in trouble. And what a great thing to have happen, to have him finally sort of find it. Keep going, man. Steve Birnbaum just signed for another 2 years, so
Yeah.
we're still gonna need center backs. Derek Williams, I believe, is here for another year, but that's it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to see this development. And again, we'll see. I do maybe want to see him now. All right, we got some stiffer competition coming up. We got
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati. How does he handle, Vasquez? How does he handle Acosta? How does he handle Hani Mukhtar? How does he handle those types of players?
For sure.
If he comes out of that, even if DC maybe doesn't get positive results, but he still comes out of that playing the same way, the way we've seen. I mean, you're talking about a guy who could potentially maybe take that mantle from Birnbaum, because I think he's a little bit. I mean, never say never with players being outside transfers, but I think he's sort of firmly rooted. I think he might firmly root himself in kind of that Bill Hamid role, where I think he's going to be at DC for a while. Maybe he starts to get 26, 27. Maybe he says, well, I want to maybe try to make that leap to Europe. And I'm assuming again, he's going to be solid. He's not going to regress back to what we saw. But I think you're right. I think this has been his most solid form. He's been incredibly good on his passing has gotten better. I feel like he's not making a lot of those really awful passes. It'll be curious to do like if he continues this again. Want to be preface, he's got to
Yep.
continue it because I mean you say this is his most consistent run of form. I would maybe argue with that a little bit because I think he did have a good run in 2021, right before the Gold Cup, and actually got himself on the Gold Cup roster due to how well he was playing under Hernan Losada. But I will say this does feel a little bit. This feels a little more consistent and certainly a little bit different. Like maybe it's finally maybe start to click in his head what he needs to do in the off season and during and in the game to be a better defensive player. And maybe that's come from coaching from Wayne Rooney, coaching from Steve Birnbaum. I will say, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just quickly looking through a foot mob. This is, and it only goes back to 2020, beginning of 2022. His ratings this season, he had an 8 against Charlotte, 8.2 against Orlando, 7.5 against Montreal, 7.4 against Columbus, 7.3 against Chicago, and so he's in the green for the entirety of the season. Last year he ended on a 4.3, 6.4, 6.4, and he's never broken 8. So now he's 2 games in a row. It's been one of those at a goal, so that certainly helps the stats. But he, like you said, I think that's a great point to call out. It's one thing to handle Charlotte. It's one thing to handle Orlando. Who they don't. It's not like It's not like it's a slouches. But certainly now you have MVP caliber attacking players that you're going to have to deal with. So let's see what you got. I think that's a good. And the rest of the defense too. How does this 3-man backline hold up against sort of a different type of a more dynamic attack? Hani Mukhtar has owned this team every time he plays us. He scores every time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's another. Let's see, one game at a time. Charlotte, Cincinnati's the first challenge, but
Yeah. By the way, RJN and DC, have you noticed that how Victor Paulson is always talking up Pines during the game, giving instructions at pep talks? I think we've seen that. Victor Paulson, I think it's great. It's been great to have him out here on the field. I think he really fits well into that sort of 3-back system. And I think that serves him well because that's sort of, I feel like all these players have gotten better when we just added another player as kind of defensive cover to kind of sit in this role. And I've talked about this. He sort of plays kind of that halfback role. He's going to step in, I think, to the midfield. He's going to try to play possession and maybe try to move the ball a little quicker. But he still
and
has
destroy
and destroy.
and be a physically imposing player that Russell Canals is not. It's not really his jam. He like I said
He's the
before. He's
ball
usually
winner.
the one that is fouled. Right. He's the crash test dummy.
He's the ball winner, and I think it has helped. And honestly, I mean, one thing I will say is that I think a lot of fans, we talk about Steve Birnbaum, we talk about the contract extension. I think there's some fans that were a little bit upset by that. I do wonder if I feel like there's this preconceived. It almost feels very Michael Bradley-ish with the U.S. men's national team, and we've criticized him before on this in the past. But he has played exceptionally well over this 3-game stretch. Again, we'll see. Hopefully he's still healthy. Hopefully he can still go out there. I feel like he's been that player where maybe there are people that read a little bit too much into the Open Cup, not making the bench for the Open Cup games. Maybe, and it seemed to me that he is really, from what we've heard from a lot of the younger players, he's really been sort of a leader in that, for those younger players, mentoring a lot of those young players. So I would not be surprised if maybe Birnbaum's had a role also in Donovan Pines too. Because he seems like among the teams, he actually maybe does really behave like a captain. And you know what? If he really wasn't doing that, if he really was doing that bad of a job as a captain, he wouldn't be the captain anymore. And I think he's been the captain consistently since 2019, 2020, I want to say. Like, I think he's been
After
that
Wayne
player.
left.
Yeah, after Wayne left, he's been that player. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he may be in a comfortable situation with the coach and with the system that he can sort of work with. So let's. What do you want to?
We didn't talk about the goal. We haven't
Yeah,
talked about Christian Benteke's worldy goal. That I think it's funny that Wayne. I love a petty man that has a strong memory. So like the first thing that came up in the post game press, I was like, yeah, he did that to me against Man United like a million back when things were not in 1080p on the internet. I saw the replay. I was like, man, it was a bit ago.
That was for
Uh,
Liverpool, I think, right? I think it was when he
I
played for Liverpool.
I don't recall. I'm not sure. But the goal, the point here is, Christian Benteke gets an opportunity. Someone, I think it was Seth Vertelny, pointed this out. He's like, not only did he do that, not only did he have the confidence to do that for himself, he also looked off other players who looked like they were coming for the ball as it was bouncing in the box, as he was sort of controlling, to sort of be like, I got it, I got this. I'm gonna give this a go. I think Pines was one of the players rushing on. He's like,
Pines and Teddy QPH were like running. They were moving towards the ball. I think Teddy was ready to just spank it into the
he's like,
goal,
no.
and then he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna blow your minds. You're gonna blow your minds here in a little bit." I mean, we've talked a lot about how much Benteke is. I mean, right now he's the best player out there on the field.
Yep.
And I think we're finally seeing. I think maybe some people are going to have some critical eyes on Taxi Funtas. I think he's grown into the game. He's still playing well. He's not his shots are still maybe not as right on target, but I think once he gets those on target, things are going to be good. I think that finish against Orlando is still really good. But we talk
He's
about.
a really good number two. He's a really good second focal point.
Mhm.
And as he continues to get minutes under, and he's 90 minutes fit every time, him and Benteke, I think they've got an understanding now. But as it continues to grow,
Oh yeah,
it's dangerous, man. I really do think it's dangerous.
yeah. And we talked about what makes a successful team in MLS. It's having 3 designated players playing well, and finally, for the first time since goodness gracious, I'm going to go ahead and say 2018. I think 2018 we had Areola, Acosta, and Wayne Rooney. I think they were both on DP contracts at the time. First time since 2018 we have designated players playing like designated players, and we have the 3 designated players starting at the beginning of the year, which I
Hmm.
don't think we've ever had that.
Nope.
And they are
And
fine.
they're not reclassed DPs either. They're
Yeah,
not like people that had to get raises, so that's where they went. These are players bought in to do this thing.
yeah. Our GNDC Taxi has been playing defense in ways we didn't see last season. I mean,
Also true.
yeah, if he's out there, he can still play that type of press and sort of maybe lead that press where maybe Benteke doesn't have the legs to do that, and he certainly doesn't want to do that. So, like you talked about, we talked about a guy buzzing around Benteke. I mean, that is Taxi Funtas. So, having 3 designated players playing well will win you games in the MLS. It'll make you competitive in MLS for sure. And that's what we've seen. Matthias Klick's been a little bit, I think, underrated as far as the performance goes, but I think he still provides great service. He's starting to get into that linking play, and we really actually have 4 because Lewis O'Brien, I mean, is a designated player that we're renting.
Oh, yes, yes.
Are you changing your mindset about getting a Lewis O'Brien jersey? I mean,
No, I'm not. I'm gonna get a jersey wherever he lands and stays. I just
yeah.
love the way he plays. It is the Gareth Bale cheat code as far as like somehow managing to not have to have him as a DP. He certainly plays it. You said that Christian Benteke is the best player on this team. He's definitely the best player on this team permanently. Lewis O'Brien is up. It's a 1A 1B for me,
Mhm.
just from what he's able to do. I didn't get a chance to talk about it last time. It was notable in the Kickers game, sort of when he came on, and I've talked about this over the years too. I think I'm not, so I'm not a soccer native. Like, right, I came to the game a little bit late, but the thing that I noticed most about what sets players apart is the first touch upon receipt, where it's moving in the direction they want to go, where it's not just like I'm going to take control and then decide where to go. It's that I have analyzed the field, I have analyzed the defenders. This pass is coming in from the right. I'm going to take it off my left and go at a 45-degree angle where I can't be touched defensively. Most MLS players do not have that innate sort of game reading skill, and when you bring in a player that I think it's because the game speed is comparable to the top leagues that they've. So he's played in the championship, he's played in the Premier League, and those leagues are both go go go, full octane, full press, running for 90. It's not like Spain, it's not like Italy. We have a little bit more time on the ball to pick a pass or decide what you're going to do. They're on you immediately, and those players that come from this league that come right here, the ones that are really good can do that, and it breaks midfield open because it breaks lines every time because those players are able to outthink their defender and have one extra step on them because they're already going where they want to go. And as a non-native, as watching the game, I'm like, this continues to impress me. And whenever I see it, I'm like, that is a guy I want on my team. I want a whole bunch of those guys.
Maybe this is a little early to start talking about, but if you are Wayne Rooney, you are Dave Casper, you are sitting in that lineup and you are seeing I think you want to know by June, or you want to know by June if there's any hope that you can hold on to him either through a loan extension or something. And if there isn't, you need to go out and find a guy that can do what he does, or at least can do a good enough version of it.
Right. Well, who can play the cover version of Lewis O'Brien
Yeah,
for a reasonable fee?
because I don't think it would be Chris Durkin. You slot Chris Durkin, and you would notice very
Hmm.
quickly. You would notice very quickly a difference. But we talk
I'm
about
wondering, is there, we talk. I don't think a permanent transfer is in the cards. I'm just wondering what kind of money being dumped on a team for the remainder of the season to get them to the break. Is that a possible thing? Is that a realistic possibility? I mean, it's up to the player too. Obviously, he wants to go
yeah.
play. He said now a couple times. He said it in the BBC. He said it to the Athletic. He's like, "Yeah, my future's over there. Like that's where I want to be." Um, but
Y- You know, I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come down to what happens with Nottingham this year. I think they are just above the relegation zone. It's been this whole seesaw. I mean, this is the relegation fight is where like is going to be crazy. I mean, I think there's like 1 point separating like between like the relegation teams. I mean, there's teams that are seesawing. I mean, first is Everton to financial ruin, Everton to safety, to get the stadium built. I mean, all these things. So crazy relegation battle going on in the Premier League. So, I people kind of ran with with what Pablo said about how apparently with Lewis O'Brien, how apparently if Nottingham get relegated, that lowers his buying price, so maybe they could make it work if they split it out enough. Who know? I mean, honestly, I don't know at this point. I don't know at this point whether it's possible to be worked out. I don't know whether they can make it an extension. Maybe if he's having a good enough time, maybe if he's being successful, I think maybe you could convince him, hey, we're only going to run this season till November. You get to go. You get a full season. You get to play games. We're going to be competitive, and then October, November, you can just go right back. You're only in the You'll be fully fit, 100% match fit, heading into wherever you're going in the regular season and ready to be flying. You'll be getting minutes. You'll be getting starting minutes. Everything. So I don't know. We'll see once we get closer to whether that happens. One thing I will say about the Benteke goal, I am 90% confident that is the first DC United player to ever score in a bicycle kick. I might be wrong about that. I was thinking about like Dwayne De Rosario. I cannot recall. I know we've been scored on plenty of times. From Brian Ching used to like score worldies against us. Marcelo Balboa scored on us, back in the day. And I'm pretty sure we've had Juan Agudelo scored in like a playoff game once. Like we've been scored on plenty of times from like bicycle kicks.
hmm.
But I think Christian Benteke is the first DC United player to score on a bicycle kick. I if anyone can find video, if anybody can go and get me video that proves me wrong, I will shut up. But I'm pretty
I
sure I'm
want.
pretty sure right about that.
I think you're. I've got something in my mind about Chris Pontius, but I don't. I don't know.
I don't think that's a
You don't
bike.
think so?
I don't think I cannot recall him ever scoring a bike.
All right,
But
all right. We listen. We have got a lot of nerds for fans. Someone's gonna track us down. If it's real, we're gonna get a video. We're gonna get added tomorrow. It's gonna
yeah,
happen.
but I mean, honestly, incredible goal of the week. I don't know if we'll see if it makes it maybe all the way to the goal of the year, but just an
Should.
absolute audacious goal. Shows how much he's playing with confidence, how good he looks, and that can only be good for the rest of the year as long as as long as he stays healthy.
Let's talk about
Let's
the last goal.
The last goal again. We kind of talked a lot about Lewis O'Brien, but Lewis O'Brien again takes the award for just dribbling down the ball. He's got acres of space. Charlotte just kind of gives them. I think they were kind of done at this point. They were ready to go home after you get dunked on like that by
Right.
Christian Benteke. I think they were like, all right, this is over. And then he slots the ball across, probably meant for Benteke. Benteke doesn't quite read it right. He kind of slips down. I forget there was I almost forget who was chasing it, whether it was Jacob Green or somebody else, but there were two DC players that were crashing that. Jacob Green gets on the ball and slots it into the back of the net. 3-0. And the way he kind of runs over, the way the whole team was kind of mobbing him, that is a team that is playing, that is having fun. That remember that running joke last year. That is a team that is having fun, enjoying themselves. They are Klon Nifwitty says, God, we are nerds, aren't we? um, Having fun, enjoying themselves, and playing for each other, which I think is just a very, very good thing for this for this team going forward. And it's confidence breeds confidence, and in a lot of ways.
Very reminiscent to the celebration after Griffin Yao scored in the empty stadium, and also Kevin Paredes' goal. So they love a first goal for an academy kid player. Wayne called it out. He said it's good for the other kids to see that, like to see like not only can you get in the team, but you can get on the score
Yeah.
sheet. It can actually happen.
And we had it
Great
too
for him.
with Ted
We
Pietro as well in the earlier in the season.
Jay Ozzie is out of jail. I don't know what that means as far as anything else. We know nothing. I'm not on Swedish Twitter anymore. So Jacob Green continues to have opportunity. He played. I think he came in and played right back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not right back, but he played. He took Andy's spot versus Pedro
Uh,
Casantos played a full 90.
yeah, I mean, he came from the left side. He crashed from the left side though on that goal. So I don't know if he. I don't.
Either way, he's got.
Yeah,
I think he has ability to play on both sides. So great for him. Build on that. Keep going.
yeah. Maybe then we don't. Maybe we break the contract and we get like an extra 750K in cap space or whatever if we can get out of our contract. Do you think? I mean, at this point, so do you think we will ever see Mohamed Jazi back on the field?
I do. I think we probably will. I think it depends on if he's going to be released on his own recon. I don't know. Again, we don't know. Like, is he awaiting trial? Is there going to be a trial? Have they dismissed charges? We don't know anything yet. If they dismiss the charges, for sure he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a quick trial, which I don't think there will be, and he's found not guilty, then yeah, we'll see him back. But I think that. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like if he's not in jail, yeah, I think he probably will, but we'll see.
And we're not
It's
likely
like
to get any news.
it's hard to punish this team. And, you know, historically, it's hard to punish someone for something that the court has not agreed that they've done. So, court or the league. So I think there's a chance that if he's not in jail, he's back on the. But the challenge too, like he wasn't good. He kind of was not. And I know at times I said I thought that he looked pretty good. And he did have moments of it, but on the whole, he was either hurt or, Jacob Green has had more impactful moments.
Well,
I can remember things that he's done defensively.
Yeah, well, one thing I will say, I think the role, the formation shift where we shifted to this wing back role, I think that role could suit him a little better than what we were playing, which was kind of like a 4-3-3, 4-4-2 hybrid type of thing. Now we've fully committed now to this 3-5-2, which is wing backs in bombing up and down the field, which you still have some defensive responsibilities, but you do not have a whole bunch of defensive responsibilities. And it's you look at Julian Gressel. Julian Gressel was never known for his defensive abilities, but he's still considered one of the best wingbacks in the league because he brings you so much offensively. Sure, would be really nice to have him, but we won't go back into that. Matt Doyle talks about that way too much.
He's playing as an 8 for Vancouver now.
Yeah, he's switched positions. So, but yeah, we'll see. I think this role is good. We'll see when Dahomey gets here if he can maybe also slot into that wing back role. Maybe he plays well, and then it's like sorry, Mo.
That's what I forget which coach said is like a competition for places is about to pick way up.
Yeah.
So that's all. It can only make the team better.
Yep. And I think that's a very, very good thing. Anything else we want to close out on this game? Great goal from Jacob Green. 3-0. DC firmly locks it up. They are flying high into a tough stretch that I think, confidence breeds confidence. And we'll see, also, I mean, since he's good, they're top of the table, but they have not been playing 100% convincingly. And they have had moments was that them? They lost 5-1 to St. Louis. Am I recalling that correctly?
Think so.
Yeah, I think so. That's right. I think that's right. But
Lucho missed a penalty this weekend. They should have won. They should have won at the death. They did not. Just remember the end of last season. Just remember the pain of that game, and then let's see how much we can turn the tables. I think we're going in their house. Let's make a prediction too. Let's sort of set this up. So I think we have a healthy roster. It seems like questionable about Steve, but we might be able to roll out the same lineup again. Cincinnati did not leave with any injuries there coming out of New England. No. New England lost their DP to looks like an ACL. Very crappy weather that game. So I would say if I'm gonna speculate about how this game's gonna go, I'm gonna say 2-2 draw. is my feel with Benteke and who do I want to say gets the second goal? Who's a realistic goal scorer? Diamond Pines.
I'm going 1-1 Benteke and Acosta on the goals. So
Can't
that's
go wrong betting. If you, I've given up sports betting, but
yeah.
if
I
you haven't,
I think both teams. DC is sort of playing very sort of defensive by choice. The big story around Cincinnati is that they've been able to find ways to win, but they haven't been playing all too well in the attack. They obviously the big story I think is Brenner. I'm not sure if he's been back into the lineup. Have to go back and look, but he is apparently on his way out. He is very much has one foot in Europe. Basically, it's just kind of waiting for some details to come across, probably for the seasons to end. And yeah, he hasn't really, hasn't been showing up to training. They don't really have they have Vasquez, who's of course still really good. They have Acosta, who's still really good. If any one of those guys are out, it becomes bad pretty quickly. So they
I
are a
think
team.
Brenner's has terms agreed.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I think he's done. So that he's only scored one goal this year,
Yeah,
which to your point, his head is turned. So that's somehow that's the way that goes. But
yeah.
you say 1-1, I say
Acosta's like, oh,
2-2.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
I know that
remember
song.
that.
Yeah,
um,
so we see it. We both see a draw, though. I think that tells you sort of what we. That's an acknowledgement of the challenge versus sort of they're not Charlotte.
yeah,
I think that's and it's on the road, but we know we won 2 on the road, so I think this is reasonable amounts of optimism that we're rolling into this game with.
yeah,
I think that's fair. So we'll see how it shakes out.
yeah. Want to go real quick, hit some real quick new scoreboard at Segra. I think is interesting to see. Please, maybe the
It's
field.
not on wheels. It actually stays there. It's cemented in.
And I think it's important. We talk about Segra Field and sort of the where that stadium is, and I think it shows some good things that I think that there's some investment that's actually happening there. That stadium is going to be built up, and that stadium is going to become better than what it is. And I really hope, like in 5 years or so, they just say, all right, we're gonna rip up the turf. We sold Ted Pietro for $20 million. Let's go build out. Let's go put some grass. Go put some grass on the fields and actually like make this a grass field instead of the turf field. The turf was very clearly like, we don't have time for grass. We don't have the budget for grass right now. Let's just get the turf down and call it a day. One signing we didn't get to last week, which I think we sort of hinted that there was a USL Championship player, and we are all on pins and needles on who that could be. And I was looking up top scorers in the championship, and it wasn't that. It
He
was
wasn't on that list.
he was not on the list. It was Eric Hurtado, longtime MLS player, played for Vancouver,
Fredericksburg native.
Fredericksburg native, so he gets to come close to home.
Him and Jackson Hopkins can talk about Carl's.
Let's just hope he keeps the anti-vax stuff to a minimum around Mr. Jackson Hopkins.
I mean, you don't know what Jackson's like. You don't know.
That is the big controversy with Eric Hurtado, is that he was traded from Vancouver to Columbus because he refused to be vaccinated, and that was a huge problem for a Canadian team that needs to travel to the States a lot, and they can't then return if you're not vaccinated. So, unfortunate. I guess unfortunate from that perspective. A lot of people are very upset about that. I have chosen to be madder at certain individuals that use their platform. As far as I know, Eric Hurtado's not showing up on Tucker Carlson or some of those other shows and going off on anti-vax. I don't think he's even had like a news article about it.
I don't think he is either.
Yeah,
He's not. I don't imagine he's like, actually, I'm here to sell you supplements.
Yeah, he's not doing any of that stuff. I feel sorry that he's being led astray by probably a lot of people who do not have his best interests in heart and don't really care and just want money and profit. So at the end of the day, I'm like, it is what it is. It's a cheap backup. I think a lot of people also were saying, looking at the $10,000 transfer fee, at the end of the day, I don't care. That's like 0.015% of like our transfer of our salary cap budget. It's nothing. We got him out. He had signed a 30-day contract. So yes, you could have waited. You could have just waited for that contract to run out, pick him up for free. But I think they're like, we need somebody in here now. 10K is not a whole lot to spend. San Antonio were probably like, sure, we'll take we'll take the money because there's not really a good market between USL and MLS. So
you paid
also
$1 million for Nigel, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. obviously he goes. The big reason this happened, I think, is because Carl Robinson was his coach at a certain time in Vancouver. So, if he is playing any more than if he is getting anything more than we need to rest Benteke for a midweek game,
Yep.
then we're in trouble. Benteke has been hurt, and this season will go downhill very, very fast without him. So,
He's a
knock on
Leagues
wood.
Cup. He's a Leagues Cup dude, and a 5 to 10 minutes a game if you want to start giving Benteke a blow at the end of the games. But he doesn't seem to want to come out. Usually, he seems like he's a player that's the longer he can stay in, the better. It seems like.
I think I will be shocked if Benteke travels on Wednesday for the Open Cup game, which I think is on Tuesday. Actually, I would be shocked if he traveled. He might travel, but I would be surprised. I think that's where you see. I think that's where you see Hurtado get a start. I think you see him get a start in that game.
Yeah, the fact he was already on the bench like 5 minutes after his transfer certificate cleared tells you that they're ready. He's ready to go
Yeah, I
because
don't
he
think
was
I
midseason.
I don't think there is any. Well, I mean, I think his transfer certificate probably cleared pretty quickly. I wouldn't be sure there even would be one. But I'm looking forward to Hurtado starting all the friendlies. Yeah, Necaxa, you're going to be in for the Eric Hurtado show. Let me tell you, uh, in June. Oh man, I think if we advanced, like it's going to be like a Saturday, and then they play Necaxa, and then they have an Open Cup. I mean, it's weird.
Yeah, the lineup for the friendly is going to be funny if they do that.
Yeah. I would actually wonder if they might like if the ticket sales aren't great, they might just be like, we're just gonna cancel
If
this.
if they're not great, these friendlies are money laundering for season ticket dollars to try
Yeah,
to figure out how to like get the numbers to where they need them to be. That's all. That's all these games are.
fair enough.
Real Betis, etc., etc.
Fair enough. All right. I think that's gonna do it. I think we've done everything we can. Again, patreon.com/RFK Refugees. John will read your name out on the show. You get his Friday show. Um, And also check us out. Also, if you're on Twitch right now streaming and you hit that little subscribe button, you can subscribe with your Amazon Prime subscription. So whatever you're already paying to get Amazon Prime, you can just drop that right on our Twitch stream. It also helps us out. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos.